big points to take away from this. The first is Joe Biden should not be running this country. No one who has run his own family in this way should be in charge of anybody else. His behavior as a father is truly dark, even by modern standards. Biden should explain immediately why he inappropriately showered with his own daughter. He should be asked that at his next press availability. His chief of staff, Ron Klain, who runs the country, should be asked, you work for a man who showered with his own daughter, and by her own account, distorted the rest of her life because he did.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Is This Thing Working? How you doing over there, baby?
I am doing good today. We're just hanging out on a Friday, TGIF. Everybody loves Fridays. It's the end of the week, weekend happening, and it's spring out there, so it's going to be a beautiful weekend here in East Texas.
Yeah, and since we've all had a busy week, I can guarantee you there's been missed headlines throughout the week. That's what we're here to do today. Just bring you some missed headlines, talk about them a little bit, bring you some information, bring you some facts, let you decide.
That's it. That's what we're about today.
I think that was somebody else's slogan at one time, let you decide.
Let you decide?
Who was that?
I don't know.
Anyway,
offhand.
our slogan, which I should have started with to begin with, is be informed and be engaged, and that's why we're here, to inform you and spur you on to engagement.
That's right.
So before we start this show, can you please do us a favor and share our show with all your friends? Also, stomp that like button. Please follow us and subscribe wherever you see the name, Is This Thing Working? You're helping us to grow, and we are growing. And it's evident our numbers are starting to show that. And we thank you from the bottom of our heart. Man, we put you in the room right along with us. So let's get this thing rolling.
Well, we're going to start with one of the top headlines yesterday evening. Everyone, if you're in the conservative space anyway, is really big. January 6th, a praying grandma faces 3 years in jail. Oh my gosh, this is so sad. I seen a video of her after she got out of court, and it was heartbreaking. It went viral, so you can see it out there. It's just heartbreaking. It just broke my heart. But she's a 71-year-old great-grandmother charged by the Department of Justice for her peaceful participation in the January 6, 21 rally in Washington, D.C. She plans to appeal the Thursday verdict that could see her locked up for 3 years. She said in a statement, I am in utter disbelief by the verdict. Never in my life did I imagine that my own government would charge me as a criminal for exercising my religious liberties and rights to free speech, which are guaranteed by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, she said. While I disagree with the jury's decision today, I plan to appeal this verdict at the U.S. Court of Appeals. Lorenz is a mother of 4, grandmother of 7, and great-grandmother of 1. She maintains her attendance at the January 6, 21 rally was to peacefully assemble and pray for our nation. She spent about 10 minutes inside the Capitol building, which is usually open to the public, after police moved aside and allowed protesters in. Almost 2 years after the rally, Lorenz, who has no criminal record or any history of violence, was charged by Joe Biden's Department of Justice on 4 federal criminal misdemeanor counts, and here's what they are. Entering and remaining in a restricted building, disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol. This is just disgusting that she could get 3 years for parading, disorderly conduct, and they let criminals out on the street every single day. I can't get this.
I still can't figure out how they can open the doors and then charge you with trespassing. But to me, the biggest thing in all of this is they have taken a citizen of our country, a peaceful citizen of our country, a law-abiding citizen of our country, a good person who has spent 71 years of her life raising her family and watching all of this and living her life in a country that she called America, that she believed in. And she believed in what, most of all? Her First Amendment right to redress grievances to our government.
Yes.
And did she go up there to redress grievances? Yes, because she was in the middle of this protest right along with everybody else. And we know the reasons that everybody was there. And she walked into the Capitol building. doors were opened already. She walks into here, and what does she do? Instead of choosing violence, instead of choosing anything wrong, she stood there and she prayed for the people of our country, and she prayed for our leaders because she could see the direction that our country was going. And look at what they done. They didn't disappoint, did they?
No.
You know, the biggest violation that they've done against her is to violate her First Amendment rights, because the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. There it is.
There it is. And every one of that he just read, every one of these right here, this entering and remaining in a restricted building, what the heck? That is what they did, was took away her First Amendment rights.
When did
period.
that? And okay, technically on that day they might have restricted. Technically, whatever, I don't care, because that's not a restricted building.
That's the people's. That's the people's house.
You're damn right. That's our house.
That's exactly right.
She had every right to walk in there and pray anytime she wanted to.
That's right.
What's their second one? Disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building. How is praying a disruptive conduct?
Yes.
How is
Well,
praying?
to them, praying's a bad thing.
How is praying disorderly?
It's probably what got her guilty, because she prayed. That's how these people are.
So not only did they try to say she was disorderly and disruptive on the grounds, she was disorderly in the Capitol building. Bullshit.
Is that a crime? Where is a law that says that disorderly conduct in the Capitol building is a bad thing that you go to jail for?
Well, it's a misdemeanor.
Well, but
Hey,
you go to jail for?
Jamal Bowman pulled a fire alarm, and that he ain't spent the first minute in jail.
No, he ain't spent the first second. And
That's disorderly.
There has been many protests inside them buildings since then.
And the last charge, what does it say here? Parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol. You know, the First Amendment was the last sentence that I read right here. You have the right to a peaceful protest. You have the right to peacefully protest, to assemble, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. How in the hell does anybody in a jury sit there, know the First Amendment, look at these charges, and find her guilty?
I agree.
This only happens where? In third world banana republics.
Well, you know, this third world banana republic here in Washington, D.C., that's done this to not just Lovrens, but many, many January 6th. I would say about 1,300 January 6th people have been sentenced or harassed or whatever they decide to do to them. Show up at their house with FBIs. Well, you know, y'all remember what happened to Ashley Babbitt. She was shot dead. And this government in Washington, D.C. wants to move this lawsuit. Wants to transfer Ashley Babbitt's $30 million wrongful death lawsuit from California to Washington, D.C.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. This broke this morning. Judicial Watch has announced today that it has asked a federal court to deny the U.S. government's request to transfer the Ashley Babbitt wrongful death lawsuit from California to Washington, D.C. Among other legal points, Judicial Watch argues it would prejudice the case and be unjust for Ashley's family if it were transferred to the hostile forum of the District of Columbia. Now, we just got through talking about what just happened to Miss Lovrens here, Mrs. Lovrens, the great-grandmother. Do you think that there would be a fair trial in Washington, D.C., after we just told you how many people went to jail? Nobody got off, by the way.
I would dare to say there has never been a fair trial in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I wanted to say this. Judicial Watch is arguing that the defendant's position to transfer venue illustrates and underscores the prejudice and injustice that plaintiffs would face if venue were transferred to the District of Columbia. Defendant mentions 80 Capitol police officers and 60 Metropolitan police officers that were injured and connects the deaths of 3 officers to the events on that day. thus connecting Ashley Babbitt to these deaths and other injuries as if she caused them. This right here is so important because this is how the left or our judicial system turns things around, and memory holds the fact that Ashley Babbitt was the only person killed at January 6th. People died after it, but they did not die there. There was even another lady.
Yeah,
I take that back.
I was going to say Roseanne Boylan.
Roseanne Boylan. I am so sorry.
She got trampled to death. Yeah.
She did. Those were, and it was only Make America Great Patriots that got killed on that day. No cops. So I just want to put that out there for you. And let's just say prayers that they keep this in California. I know California is a, blue state, but it does have a judicial system a little bit not as biased.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I do believe her chances or her probabilities of getting a more fair, objective trial in California as compared to D.C.
Yes, because that's all they talk about there is January 6th. They pound them juries.
That's the
those people.
That's the DOJ's court, man.
They're the baddest thing in the world.
The
this is what
weaponized court.
Happened. Yes, they have definitely weaponized our justice system, and that's for sure. But we're going to move on to this other headline we have going on right here, and I'm going to read the headline. It's from Newsweek. Oh, I want to go back and tell you that first article I read came from the National Pulse. I forgot to
credit
that. I would in the Rumble thing, but I want to make sure I credit these people that really take a lot of time to write these articles.
You don't want to get lumered.
No, I don't. I don't want to get lumered. I don't want to get in her crosshairs. I'm on her good side right now. Okay, but Newsweek writes an article that says MAGA, that would be us, raises questions as Ashley Biden diary thief faces prison. So this we had to bring out today. Some headlines been out a couple days now.
And do you remember when Tucker reported on this? I think this would be a good little lead-in to go with the rest of this story right here.
This was our cold open. Y'all remember the cold open? Well, here is a little bit more.
And at that point, Joe Biden should resign. And at the very least, spend the rest of his life trying to repair his own children who need it badly. And the second point to make is that Biden is using the FBI as his personal secret police, dispatching them forward to crush and intimidate and prosecute people who get in his way or his family's way. Maybe that's not surprising from a guy who spent his entire life living off taxpayers. He believes he owns the Department of Justice, but he doesn't. And the fact he's behaving as if he does is scary as hell. We cannot let the FBI become enforcers for politicians and their families. If we allow that, it's the end of everything.
And then he goes into a article concerning the situation that happened. He even brings on Harmeet Dillon, talks to her about this. And as we know, Amy Harris did get convicted, and she's facing a sentencing charge. So Newsweek reports, and they say that on Tuesday, prosecutors in New York sent a letter to a judge requesting that Amy Harris, the individual accused of stealing the diary of President Joe Biden's daughter, faces 4 to 10 months of jail time in the case. The defendant's sentence must also account for the manner in which she has abused the administration of justice through the pendency of this court proceeding. The letter filed by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says the defendant has repeatedly and consistently engaged in tactics to improperly delay the proceeding, including by misleading the court with false information to justly belated and unmerited requests for adjournments, refusing to appear when directed, and failing to comply with the court's orders to disclose or produce certain information. Here's the biggest take from all of this. Remember back then they said the diary wasn't real, it was a fake.
Oh, and they're still saying it's unproven. I looked at Snopes this morning. It said unproven.
See, but the biggest question is, if it's unproven, then how is it that you're going to sentence this woman? Once again, here we are pointing out more weaponized court systems, weaponized DOJ using the courts. The courts, man.
What I want to do is tell you what a lot of other people are saying about this Biden, about this diary of Ashley's. At Dog Right Girl on X wrote, if the Ashley Biden diary content is fake, Why demand prison time?
That's exactly what I was asking. Yeah.
And then Laura Loomer, who we talked about earlier, she said, so if the Ashley Biden diary is real, doesn't that mean we have a pedophile occupying the White House?
That answer would be yes.
That answer would be yes.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to try to jail this
Amy Harris,
for a diary that is false, that isn't there, that there is no claim, no one will come out and say if the diary is real, right? So
I thought the DOJ confirmed it.
Oh, well, looky here.
And
R.C. Maxwell says 1 year ago, James O'Keefe and I were undercover in New York. The DOJ has still not dropped their case against him for legally obtaining Ashley Biden's diary. This week, they are seeking prison time for the woman who found it after Ashley's drug bender where she abandoned it. This story is not about James O'Keefe. It's about a corrupt DOJ spearheaded by a troubled presidential family and a woman tormented by her childhood. That right there.
And that's exactly what Tucker touched on a year ago when he reported all of this. That's why I thought the Tucker thing was kind of really important to bring out in this.
Yes. Yeah, me too. And so we're just going to watch that. We're just bringing you headlines. You decide.
There you
on
go.
That one.
There you go. And here's another interesting headline. And this is something that probably got missed. This come out yesterday morning, and this now is not from a journalist. This is not from an MSN. This is not from any independent journalist. This comes straight out the House. This comes straight from Representative Mike Collins. And this is what he tweeted yesterday, and it's a kind of a long, drawn-out tweet. It's a thread. There's 5 parts to it. I want to read this to you. Once again, all we're doing is bringing you the facts. You decide. It starts. He says, a shocking email exchange reveals troubling priorities of Athens mayor and Clark County sheriff only 2 days after Laken Riley's murder. Obtained through Georgia Open Records Act, the exchange on February 24, 2024, shows Sheriff Williams questioning Mayor Gertz about the county's sanctuary status, as he is unaware. Sheriff Williams seems to care more about the PR than anything else. If the ACCUG embraces being considered a sanctuary, then come out and say so. If not, please clear this up. If the ACCGOV will not address this, I will do everything in my power to protect the integrity and professionalism of Clark County Sheriff's Office and myself. So just like Representative Collins just said, Sheriff Williams seems to care more about the PR and the optics than anything else in this. But he goes on even farther to explain his... It just gets worse. He goes, Mayor Gertz's response is even worse, endorsing non-cooperation policies with ICE and minimizing the seriousness of illegal immigration. He defends the subversion of federal authority by essentially saying American citizens are worse anyway, so let the illegals go.
Look, he says, I support the detainer policy as one that is both humane and following the well-documented propensity of immigrants in the U.S. to be less criminally inclined than the native-born population.
All right, let's keep moving along here. Instead of prioritizing solutions to prevent tragedies like this in the future, Mayor Gertz treats Laken Riley's murder as a PR drill to be managed with comfort and unity rather than enforcing the law.
Yeah, because he says here, it's highlighted, focus on comfort and unity.
Yeah.
That's what they're focusing on.
So Representative Collins goes on to continue. He said the blatant disregard of law and order by public officials is highly concerning. It reveals the need for accountability and new leadership that will prioritize public safety. Laken's death was preventable, but nothing will change with leaders like these.
What do you think, folks?
We talk about the corrupt court system. We've talked about the corrupt DOJ. We've talked about how the Biden administration is using all these people as their personal police. And guess what? This ain't just a problem on Capitol Hill. This apparently is a problem that's going on the local levels. This is why we always tell people, be informed and be engaged. Get involved in your local communities. Get involved in your town's politics and get involved and find out what your leaders of your community are up to. Because if the sheriff departments are carrying this kind of attitude, and the mayor is pretty much endorsing that kind of attitude, we got troubles. That's not the America we're going to live in. So, once again, I urge you to be involved in your communities. Find out if this type of attitude is prevalent in your community.
It probably is. It's probably everywhere. I mean, you hear all the time. I was watching Bannon yesterday, and this is kind of off topic, but it's really not. It all goes to the same way. We have people that are trying to go to these precinct strategies, and I guess the Republicans or conservatives that call themselves conservatives don't like it, and they're making it really hard on them, people that are conservatives but have somewhat different views than them, to even be involved in their local levels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's becoming really, they're pushing back real hard. They're canceling them everywhere. You know how they're doing it locally now.
Yes.
You know, so we really need to stand up and be strong. We have to be strong and force them out, because they're fighting for their power. It's all about power.
That is
every bit of it.
Exactly. And that's why the sheriff right here, he was so adamant about what the optics was going to be, what the PR was going to be. Mm-hmm. He didn't care about what actually happened. What he cared about was getting reelected.
Yeah, that's all he cared about. Well, he's not going to get reelected after this, because we're going to make sure.
Yep.
But we have one more headline to cover before we go, and that's because everyone knows about what's coming up. It's 2024. It's an election year, and we're going to hear a lot about some kind of disease that's going to take over. And you've all heard the next pandemic. Exactly.
Yeah. We called that back in 2020 too. Everybody did. And what I'm referencing to is a Paul Sperry tweet that I seen 3 days ago. And this is what it said here. Breaking. Biden is mandating Americans re-entering the U.S. give CDC contact tracing info or face criminal penalties, even though the CDC's COVID health emergency expired May 2023. Meantime, the White House is meeting with pandemic experts over possible avian influenza outbreak. Here we go again, is what he asked. And it was interesting, the response that he got. He got a response from a man named Adam Gartner. And Gartner says, there's absolutely no good reason for pandemic measures over H5N1 or avian flu, bird flu.
Right.
It cannot become a dangerous pandemic. The binding of targets deep in the lungs is what makes it dangerous. Targets that deep also make it extremely difficult for humans to contract it or to spread it. They're lying. And we know they are.
We know they are.
The CDC has even downplayed the seriousness of contagion with this.
Yes.
Even on their own website. Go to their website, look at it. It's there.
Yeah. Well, we have this article from Very Virology from his Substack. He called this article COVID Candy. And it's very in-depth. If you have a moment, you really need to go read it. It will tell you, and it will make all your fears go away, because really, he says we'll be fine. In the event a person does become infected, which is not particularly unlikely, given the extensive prevalence in birds and some wild animals presently, H5N1 is a single-stranded RNA virus circulating without any apparent unnatural additions with fairly vanilla, immune evasive features. As such, standard treatment protocols for COVID-19, in parentheses, that is, those in use by competent practitioners, include ivermectin, HCQ plus zinc, steroids like prednisone, high doses of vitamin C, and in treatment-resistant cases, some antibiotics and inhibitors, which are the inhalers, and they may be useful. And they're highly likely to be just as effective as they are for COVID, and to dramatically reduce the otherwise stratospheric mortality rate due to the rapid progression that is typically observed, significantly above and beyond that of ordinary seasonal flu. Kitchen sink treatment, and early and aggressive as possible, is highly advisable. Just wash your hands, folks. Everyone knows what to do when you get the flu or when flu season is happening, and it's happening right now. Flu season is bad. I had it. I had the stuff for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, so it is bad. I didn't have this, but I had the flu. You know, so it's out there. Just, you will be fine.
And the thing that I hope that I see the media begin to do is to push healthy living practices. Build up your immune system. Get plenty of sunshine. Get plenty of vitamin C. Get your vitamins, man.
Exercise.
Exercise. Get on a good daily vitamin regimen, especially if you're an older senior, because that's where we're at now. If you're 55 and older and you're a senior, you know, get on a good vitamin regimen. Get yourself things that's going to build your immune system up. Eat healthy foods. Get plenty of exercise and sunlight, and you'll be okay. That's what we're telling you. Don't let them fearmonger you. Don't let this become an issue. Don't. Please don't. And if they start their tyrannical, authoritarian, you got to wear a mask bullshit again, you tell them, just like we did the last time. I hope that the voices are even louder this time. If they start that bullshit again with us, you tell them, no, I got you back.
That's right.
I'm telling them no, too. Stand with me, I'll stand with you.
That's right.
Don't let them do us. Let them do us
no,
this
I think
way
we'll
like
be
we
louder
did.
this time. I really do believe that. But from me and James, you have a bang-up weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.
Is this thing working?
Rise up.
Well, hey, everybody, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned some things about what's going on around us in the nation and in your communities. You know, we couldn't do this without your continued support either. We appreciate all of you showing up, taking the time to listen to us today. So please, like I say, make sure to hit the like button, share our show with all your friends. We'll see you next time on Is This Thing Working? And as always, I'm James, and that's my lovely co-host over there,
Denise.
and we'll see you next time.
We're out.